you want to give me an issue? Okay, I'd like to call to order the Planning and Zoning Commission public hearing for Monday, December 13th, 2021. Can I get a roll call, please?
Mr. Kurtz.
Here.
Mr. Strollo. Me, Mr. Natali, I'm here. Mr. Mercado.
Here.
Mr. Bowman.
Here.
Mr. Dawson. Mr. Carderas.
Here.
Mr. Selmont. Mr. Tedisco. Ms. Blake. Ms. Downs. Mr. Hilsinger. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Will the Commission and public please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, first order of business tonight is the zone map change petition of Mark Florenza and Associates LLC, 802 South Main Street, R40 to R20A. Can we hear the call for that, please?
The zone map change petition for Mark Florenza and Associates LLC, care of James J. Perito Esquire, 265 Church Street, Suite 802, New Haven, Connecticut, 06510, to change the zone from a portion of an R40 parcel to an R20A. Property located at 802 South Main Street, Cheshire, Connecticut, 06410, as generally shown on Assessor's Map number 78, lot number 114, in an R20A partially and R40 also partially zone. Property description available for review at the planning office and filed in the town clerk's office.
Thank you. And representing the applicant tonight?
For the record, James Perito. I'm an attorney at Halloran Sage, 265 Church Street in New Haven, Connecticut. With me tonight is Mr. Mark Florenza, who is the contract purchaser of 802 South Main. Also with me is Ryan McAvoy, who is from Malone McBroom, who will go through the planning basis for the change we're asking for. I think as a housekeeping matter, the file should have the affidavit from my office that had the statement on the notices that went out as required, as well as the notice to the Regional Water Authority. I think that was all in the file at this point. You also have a staff report, which I've seen, which we can go into a little bit later. But essentially what we're looking to do is to unify the zone designation on this parcel, which is sort of bifurcated between the R20A zone, which is along South Main, and R40, which is the rear portion of that. So at this point, I'd like to have Mr. McAvoy come up and go through our maps and explain sort of the history of this property and how it was that it sort of fell between two zones at that point. Okay. And then we'll happy to answer some questions after that.
Okay.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Ryan McAvoy. I'm a licensed professional engineer with SLR International Corporation. And I have before you a few graphics that I'd like to just run through just to give a little history of the property and the surrounding areas. So this map that you see here is a zoning map, sort of the old way it was done in town that is prior to 2003. And our property, 802 South Main Street, which is located just to the south of the Stonegate age-restricted property and just to north of the Bavano's Sweet Claude's property along the east side of South Main Street, was formerly about 3 acres in size at that point. And the majority of the property highlighted here in green was located on the east side of what was then the R40 and R20A boundary. The properties along South Main Street, which included some old historical properties at the time, and also some office space, which my firm used to occupy, was R20A, and the front piece of 802 South Main Street was R20A. And then in 2003, and then again in 2006, several properties were combined initially to create what is now Stonegate, which was a zone change from R20A/R40 to the age-restricted PRD zone or ARPRD zone. And also a rear portion about 1.7 acres in size. So the majority of the 802 South Main Street property was sold to also be incorporated in the Stonegate development. So the former rear portion of 802 is also ARPRD, same as the other remaining or older parts of the Stonegate age-restricted development. So what's left, again, is what you see here in yellow with a 1.3 acre parcel, approximately, that has the front 60% to 2/3 of the property zoned R20A, and a small portion of the property zoned R40. And what we're proposing to do is take what is now green here on this map, again, about 1/3 or so of the property, and combine it with what is yellow. So it's one property, 1.3 acres in size in the R20A zone. I should note that the abutting zone to the south, as I mentioned, is the Sweet Clouds Pavano site. That is C3. And across the street is the gas station and also the condominiums. I forget the name of the development, but so a couple things to keep in mind. One is that your plan of conservation and development does refer to this property in the South Main Street focus area. And it doesn't go into detail about perhaps the bifurcated zone, but it does refer to the property as being R20A, and that it is appropriately zoned as R20A. Part of the research we did for the applicant as he was looking to purchase the property was the history of zoning on this, and we did come to the conclusion that a portion of it still is R40, although again, I don't know if it was intended to note the majority of the parcel, but again, the POCD does refer to the property as appropriately zoned as R20A. So, obviously, the R40 zone, the remnant piece, is it's very hard to see even from where you are, but I wanted to highlight the zone change map that we submitted as part of the application, where in green today is the R40 section, in yellow today is the R20A section. So 60% to 2/3 of the property is yellow or R20A, and we're looking to take that rearmost portion of the lot to make it contiguous with the rest of the parcel in terms of its zoning designation. So as I'm sure the commission is aware, the R40 zone is probably more restrictive, or almost certainly more restrictive in many respects in terms of how the lot can be developed than the neighboring C3 zone, the majority of the parcel, which is R20A, and of course the surrounding ARPRD zone to the north and east. So what's left essentially is essentially a relic of zone in the area that goes back some 20 years prior to the development of the surrounding properties. So it's our hope that the commission sees fit to allow this property to be zoned as one zone, R20A. Again, not inconsistent with the commercial properties to the south, and certainly the density of the age-restricted zone to the north and east, and then allow the property to be developed accordingly in the future. Right now, it is a single-family house, and it is intended to stay that for the short term. But with any R20A zone properties you've seen around town, they tend to be converted to office space, residential uses, and things of that nature. And the combining of this into one zone, into one useful zone for the property, will help facilitate that development in accordance with the R20A regulations.
Hey, anybody have any questions for Ryan before we? Okay.
Just one more comment. From a standpoint of being in keeping with your comprehensive plan, as Ryan had said, if you look at the South Main Street focus area, it talks specifically about this property of the R20A being an appropriate designation. From a planning perspective, it is just good planning to have a parcel of this size, which is relatively small, to be of one zoning designation. And so it's not spot zoning because you're not making it a zone that's not here right now as part of that. So I think it's very consistent with your plan, and it sort of fits into the development of what's been happening in that area. Be happy to answer any questions before you open it up into the public.
Commissioner members, Mr. Natale.
So if memory serves me right, this combined property, or this one property, was marketed a while ago with the Bavano property and the property where Sweet Claws is like one package. Does the applicant also own that other property? Is he buying that other property? Divided on the one?
At this time, no, we're just a contract purchaser for the 802 property.
And I know that there's no application in front of us, but you know, I think we have some folks in the audience too that are concerned about what's going to go there. So, you know, I'm sure I'll have some questions after the public speaks, but any indications?
Well, certainly the zone change is a separate issue in terms of what may go there. Mr. Florenza has done other residential projects here in town. There's a couple up and down Main Street that he's done that this board has approved. If there was going to be any residential development on the site, it would come in front of you as a special permit. So all the details would be there for you. As noted in your comprehensive plan, this particular house that's on site is one which the plan said would be appropriate to try to save. So if we're looking to develop this property with other residential development on it, we'd have to try to coordinate keeping that house there. So it does present some development issues in terms of trying to meet those goals of your comprehensive plan, both keeping it as an R20A zone and trying to do as much as you can to try to save the structure that's on the property. So I think at this point, most likely residential on the site, and hopefully being able to keep the house that's there in some form.
And I think I read somewhere, what was the number of, and Bill, you may be able to answer this. Let's say this does go through, goes to R20A. How many units can they put on there? Was it 14?
Well, we put that in the report, if you want to reference that.
Yeah.
Clearly, it's a higher density.
14, yeah.
Yeah, it's 14.
Yeah. Okay, and if,
And again, it's all discretionary. It's going to check.
understood.
So, but that, just from a raw density calculation, we would say that that's possible.
Gotcha.
To do
But
that.
it would be, if the houses there right now remained, that would probably take up some of that space and.
Absolutely, right. And one thing you should know, that the way, because of the bifurcation on the zone as it is now, you really couldn't use the whole site for anything more than the single-family house, because you can't have the density on the R40 section, and you don't really have the space of the land on the R20A. So in some respects, without changing the zone, you're not allowing any kind of a change to occur, in this transitional parcel between the commercial and the residential north. And I think that the change really helps facilitate a more orderly development, on this site.
Mr. Tedesco.
Just so I understand, I think, so the portion of the property now that's R40 does have existing residents on it, and the other part of it is undeveloped?
No, I think actually the structure sits on the R20, and then the line is very close or right behind it. Is that, Ryan, is that correct?
That is correct. The house currently, in the majority of the improvements, other than perhaps some shed or something in the rear, is in the R20A portion. We did not submit one, but the house.
It's in the R28, no question about it.
House is right on the road. I mean, you can see it.
Yeah, the house is, it's an older home, sits right, it is in the R28 district, no question.
So could the R40 section be developed now, if it's consistent with R40 uses? If we get a piece of house in the R20 zone that's on the road already?
It's too small.
The portion that is, let me get my notes here.
Sorry.
The portion that remains R40 right now is just over half an acre, 0.52 acres in size. So on its own, would not serve as there's no ability to develop on it. And with the setback requirements of an R40, you have 40-foot front, 30-foot sides, 40-foot rear. So it really is quite limiting in the half-acre setting.
So you really couldn't put anything on it right now?
In addition to that, it would be hard to subdivide it off because of the configuration of it. It's a remnant piece that sits in the back. It wouldn't have any frontage on its own on the property. It would create some significant design challenges to build a single-family home by itself back there. It would.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Well, Mr. Bricano.
Is the house that's on it now, is it historical or just interesting looking? What's the,
I don't think it's, I don't think it's technically like on a registry or historical necessarily, but it's just mentioned in your comprehensive plan as it's contributing to sort of the I guess, the look and the feel of that section of town. And the hope would be about that, and the adjoining property to the south would have, some kind of a development in the future that would incorporate them. This is the look that you're looking as you come up from that standpoint.
That was your question, Mr. Selma?
That was my question, yes.
Okay. Commission members, we are going to go to the public and see if they want to bring up some options, but anyone else have any questions before that?
Chairman, just
Yes.
briefly, if I may,
A couple comments?
just about the plan of development, because there isn't a narrative about this, just to read that portion, that it is, the South Main, it's just the South Main focus area, and generally it says it is framed to the north by 1.32 acre, 802 South Main Street property upon which sits a well-preserved 2,200 square foot home constructed in 1930. So if you want to know. So the person who wrote this must have known you were going to ask that question someday, so he put the date in here. So.
Okay, do you have, yeah, a couple of things for?
One thing I should have mentioned in our presentation is that we did offer to meet with the neighbors of Stonegate, and we did meet with several of the members. And in fact, they're the ones who brought to our attention the language in the plan of conservation and development that suggests that the house should remain in place. So at the time of our meeting, we were under the impression that it would be something that we'd be looking to demolish, but they brought to our attention, and I think any future development plans on this property would consider maintaining the house in some respect. And also one other item, I know it's totally unrelated to our public hearing, but congratulations, Bill, on retirement.
Okay, thank you. Okay, anyone from the public wishing to, what we need you to do is come up to the microphone. We need your name and address for the record. I'm sure you're aware of that.
Good evening. My name is Frank Lohman. I live at 17 Stonegate Circle here in Cheshire. I'm here tonight as president of the Stonegate Homeowners Association, and I'm joined by several members of the residents at Stonegate. We do have a number of concerns with this proposed zone change. I brought with me tonight two members of our Policy and Property Management Committee, Kevin Wetmore and Dennis Sonaviva, who will address these concerns with you. Dennis or Kevin? Thank you.
Kevin Wetmore, 103 Stonegate Court. I too would like to add to Ryan's comment in terms of realizing after long service to the town that Bill is going to be retiring at the end of the month, and this is his last meeting with the Planning and Zoning Council. I have been past president of the Cheshire Land Trust for a number of years, and many times when land use issues came up or environmental issues, we were always able to call on Bill and his team to resolve those. Always appreciated his frank input and insights. So, Bill,
Put it, right?
yeah, best of luck in your retirement, Bill. The other thing I'd like to do is also thank Mark and Ryan. We had wanted to get together with them to meet before the meeting, and they were willing to meet with us and to talk over some issues, because we know it's always a lot better to talk about facts and everybody arguing over assumptions. And so we met with them last week. And one of the first items that came up was the advertising on the real estate for this land. And that had been put out on the web as already pre-approved 14 units. We were getting a number of feedback, both the board and the committee, from our members saying, what's going on? This is already approved. How do we know anything about this? So I went up and talked with Bill about it, and he right away said, nothing's been approved. And he got it on the phone and called the real estate broker, and wasn't in, but left a special bill message about getting back to him so he could resolve this. My understanding is he also talked with the person who had the web responsibility and let them know that that was false advertising. Nothing's been approved. And that was a number of months ago that happened. And as of today, it still hasn't changed. When we met with Mark and Ryan, they brought that up. And Mark actually commented that was one of the things that initially got him interested in Fortunately, he's checked into it a little further. One of the things we also did was provide to Mark some background about Stonegate and how it evolved, and some of the additional data about the makeup of the people who live there. You know, we have about 80% of the people are long-term Cheshire residents who love the town and want to stay in it. We explained our concerns with them about the proposed zone change, recognizing the R40 might be an issue. Mark in turn commented that his plans for the property had not been fully developed, understandable. And when asked about the Pace House, at the time he said it would be torn down, and I know Ryan mentioned that stimulated to take a look at the conservation and development plan. I was surprised to hear that too, so I did check in the plan, and it states clearly it offers future owners an opportunity to convert the home for professional office purposes, which will preserve the structure and enable it to continue to be a signature piece at the gateway to this focus area. The plan also states regarding the Stonegate community with the historic houses we have, the base property and Pavanos, that the overall scale and design of these areas are desirable for this portion of the community. You know, really has a specific focus, and Bill read a little bit about from the development plan. I was very glad to hear that some of the feedback we were able to give them. Now they're going to preserve the house there that's spelled out so clearly in the write-up. Going forward, also, we agreed that we were both committed to working together as Mark developed his plans for the existing R20A fill property. We have no question or no issues with that. Obviously, it's been in effect for a number of years. And we also felt, in our case, it was only fair to work with them, that if it was after the fact rather than as we were going through it, that it caused him additional expenses as he's changing plans or new engineering drawings or other supplemental studies that might be required. So it's mutual beneficiary, I think, for both of us. However, I think the current proposal in front of you for a zone change is not in the best interest of the town or its residents. The reality is, on the face of it, there's really no compelling reason to make that change, but there are compelling arguments for not doing it. The existing R20A with infill would still be available for their needs. Any commercial and infill potential for the Pace properties are met by the existing R20A, which is already part of the property. Adding the existing R40 to the existing R20A creates the potential that the area, and now that can be used for commercial purposes, would push too close to the existing surrounding residence, which is basically Stonegate. And that would wind up being on, Stonegate is on two sides of this property and fairly close to the property line. This portion of the R20A, that is, there's space behind the house, so if it was turned into offices, there's still parking under the existing 20A. And we would support the change to R40 to an R20, which would make more sense because I believe there's 22,000 square feet in that existing R40, and that's more in line with the R20 usage. The owner would maintain the value of that land because under the R20, they'd be able to build a house, hopefully in comparable size and appearance to what's in Stonegate that would fit the neighborhood. And we've seen up and down Route 10, that combination of R20 and R20A is out there more than just this one property. So the current R20A provides an opportunity or an appropriate buffer to the surrounding houses. That's, as I said, we're pretty much on top of it. And I think the reality is, in every business, there are costs of doing business. Keeping the R40 or changing it to R20 provides much needed open space, is environmentally sound, and makes for good neighbors, and it just makes for good sense. So I think to sum it up, based on the information presented tonight, we could support a change to an R20 and respectfully request that the commission reject the proposed zone change as not in the public interest of Cheshire or its residents. And I started this with a thank you, and I ended with a thank you for the commissioners. Yeah, a number of us in Stonegate have been involved in commissions and committees in the town. So we appreciate what you do with your volunteer time and efforts that you put in. So thank you. And following me will be Dennis from our Policy and Property Committee.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, Planner Volker. For your record, my name is Dennis Senaviva. I reside at 102 Stonegate Court. I've been there for about a year and a half now. I'm still trying to make a left out of the entrance, but I did make it here on time. Last name is Ceneviva. You're welcome. That took me till 6th grade. I've handled land use matters. I'm an attorney in Meriden. I've done it for 40 plus years. And I know the sort of considerations that you have to make when considering a zone change. I'm not here to tell you what your job is. You know it far better than I do. I just wanted to point out a couple of important or major issues as they relate to this specific property that I think need to be addressed. The first is the impact of the proposed zone change on traffic, given the possibilities of a more intense development when you compare the uses permitted in the R40 zone with those permitted in the R20A zone. Second, we can claim, the members of Stonegate, that there are inconsistencies with your own plan of conservation and development as it relates to this particular proposal. And I too will go and discuss with you the South Main Street focus area portion of your plan of conservation and development that you amended, or many of you amended in 2019. So as to the first issue, and actually this was a surprise to me, even though I've been doing this for a while. I've always thought that traffic was an issue for special permits, site plans, that it really wasn't that germane to zone changes. And yet Connecticut General Statute 8-2, which gives municipalities the right to create zoning regulations, to create zoning maps, provides the commission with not only the right, but the obligation to consider potential traffic concerns of a zone change, even before a development plan is offered, because the consideration allowed under this statute is not the overall volume of traffic, but whether the increase in traffic will cause congestion. So that's a determination of a question of fact for you to consider. Would a development where there's this type of change in zone create an increase in traffic? I think the argument or the answer is pretty simple. Further, there's an authority on zoning, Judge Fuller in Connecticut, and he states that where the zoning authority has no control over street or highway improvements that might mitigate some traffic considerations, then the commission cannot grant the zone change. And he cites a 1970 Supreme Court case. And what he's saying is that, this is a state highway. So the applicant can come to you, grant the zone change, come in with a plan, and if it requires some efforts of mitigation, widening a road, restriping, changing traffic signalization, that's not within the purview of the Planning and Zoning Commission. Of course, that's up to the state. So here, where the road is under state control, the question is, if there are traffic issues, if there is traffic congestion, does this commission have authority to grant the petition? The law is clear. The commissioners can use their own personal knowledge, just not only professional knowledge or traffic information, but your own personal knowledge when deciding issues such as traffic congestion and street safety. I mean, you know this town. I've only been here a year and a half, and I love it. There is some traffic on Route 10 I wasn't aware of, but I mean, you know the area. I'm sure you know it well. Many of you have sat here for several years. And I can tell you that, all joking aside, taking a left-hand turn out of Stonegate is not the simplest thing in the world. Sometimes it does require my wife, for example, to take a right when she wants to head south to Hamden. You still have to take a right, find a light to turn around, because there is some very significant traffic at that end of town. And this is not just when school lets out. So the question to you is it appropriate to change the rear portion of this parcel to a zone like R20A that can increase residential densities and/or increase a commercial footprint beyond the front of the property, and thereby increase vehicle trips beyond that which is currently permitted by the property zoning. So that's a question that clearly you have to answer. As to the second issue, much time, I suspect, and consideration was spent looking at this particular neighborhood and this particular parcel when you, many of you, the authors of the Cheshire Plan of Conservation and Development, advocated and eventually passed the plan in 2016, then came back and amended it in 2019. And in that 2019 amendment, as Planner Volker pointed out, there were certain findings, and he read a couple of sentences from that section, and I'm sure most of you remember it. And it talks about the fact that no changes of zoning for this parcel were advocated. So they looked at 802 South Main, they looked at 830, looked at other properties, Cheshire Nursery. I'm sure you remember it. And there were a number of conclusions that you made at the end of that analysis of that focus area. And none of them, as specific as they were to many of the individual parcels up and down that South Main Street stretch, there were no proposals to modify the existing zoning. You didn't say back in 2016, you didn't say in 2019, we should take 802 and unify the zone, make it a little bit bigger, make the R20A a little bit bigger. We think it'll be easier to develop. You didn't come to that conclusion. It's not in your writings. So you looked at everything. You made specific proposals for the Cheshire Nursery, for other sites. You made none with this property. Instead, you said that the existing zoning, not just the R20A, you said the existing zoning, it's in your words, is appropriate and offers future owners an opportunity to convert the home for professional office purposes, and that's that beautiful Pace home, which will preserve the structure and enable it to continue to serve as a signature piece at the gateway of the focus area. Now, these are your words, and they remain as sound today as they were when you wrote them. If you grant this zone change, it'll be inconsistent with that particular finding that you made only 2 years ago. And it would be inconsistent with protecting the residential neighbors who live in that neighborhood. Additionally, the zone change, if granted, it does provide an incentive to raise the existing Pace house in order to maximize an infill development of up to 14 new homes. Again, is that your plan? So I just raised that for you, gentlemen. Take a look at, when you consider your decision, what's the impact of this zone change? Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public wishing to speak on this? Okay, we are going to be holding this open. Would you guys like to respond to any of the comments that came up? Sure.
So, Mr. Chair, you're going to hold this open until your next meeting?
Until our next meeting, yes.
Okay, we'd like to reserve the ability to sort of respond to some of the comments made then.
Okay.
Both on the issue of traffic that was raised and also the issue on the zone map.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, you certainly have every right to do that. And if you want to prepare a statement in advance that the commission can see in advance, you're free to do that as well. We'll get it sent out for you.
Appreciate it. We'll do that.
Yeah, it'd help us. Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Great.
We'll also make it available to the public who is here tonight.
Clearly.
I'm sure Mr. Senaviva will stop by, so.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Commission, thank you. Commission members, Mr. Mercado.
On the Pace House itself, I was told that the roof has issues and it's hard to procure the components to fix that, whatever it's made. Is that true? Can that be brought back or to maintain that house?
I don't know that at this point. I mean, we've been looking into sort of the structural issues in the house and some of the other aspects of when you're dealing with an older house like that, there's other issues you have to deal with if you have to do even any demolition or partial demolition. So that's something that has to be looked at. Would you replace it with the existing kind of roofing? Would you have to do a different roofing that looks similar to that? So those are really good questions, but not things, frankly, that we have an answer to yet. Again, we're the contract purchasers and we're looking to see, is this a project and a property that we feel we can, move forward on, given the costs and the market today.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. No, I'm sorry, one more question. Mr. Natale.
Sorry, I know that prior to the state replacing the traffic lights down there was a traffic light that faced that property. Don't know if it was active or not. I know you're not going to address it tonight, but can you look into that? I mean, we could drive by, but I don't know if that's still there.
We'll take a look at that. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Soma?
More of a question for Bill. They still need a special permit to build anything. And they need to his point about traffic, they would need a DOT review after our approval anyways, correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. All right. Moving on, number 2, subdivision application of Pinnacle Land Development LLC, Coleman Road, 11 lots. And number 3, special permit application, Pinnacle Land Development, rear lot access. By Mr. Bowman. Ms. Downs, this is one we had before, so we need to have you come up for Mr. Bowman. You can speak. You can read that now and then they'll clear it
The
out.
continuation of the public hearing for the subdivision application of Pinnacle Land Development LLC, care of Ryan Thompson, RCL Thompson LLC, 19 Pepper Bush Drive, Clinton, Connecticut, 06413, for an 11-lot subdivision property located on Coleman Road is generally shown on Assessor's Map number 79, lot number 69 in an R40 zone.
If we could just ask everybody to step out into the hall with the conversations, just so we can continue with our meeting, that would be great. Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry, I figured they would.
Number 3, the continuation of the special permit application of Pinnacle Land Development LLC, care of Ryan Thompson, RCL Thompson LLC, 19 Pepper Bush Drive, Clinton, Connecticut, 06413, for a rear lot access property located on Coleman Road, as generally shown on Assessor's Map number 79, lot number 69 in an R40 zone.
And representing the applicant.
Yeah, for the record, my name is Anthony Fazzone. I'm an attorney here in Cheshire, representing the applicant, Pinnacle Development. With me this evening is Ryan Thompson, the professional engineer and surveyor on the site in the application. This is the second evening for this public hearing. We did go through the subdivision at the last public hearing. There have been some changes at the request or insistence of the consulting engineers for the town. We also were waiting for wetlands, and we did get a wetlands approval. Just when Bill comes back, want to make sure that report is in the record or made a part of the record. And with that, I will, after Mr. Thompson goes through the subdivision and the details of the subdivision, I'm going to address the issue of the Baraites mines.
Good evening, Ryan Thompson of RCL Thompson LLC. I am a licensed professional engineer and land surveyor in Connecticut. And Mr. Fazzone just mentioned that there were some changes since the last meeting, but really those changes don't have anything to do with the layout or the design that I showed you last time. That really the only changes since I previously presented are some additional sheets showing detailed information regarding the easements and notes on the easements. What I presented last time was the plan that you see here with the in terms of drainage with the wet swells, the vegetative filter strip, the sediment forebay, and the stone diaphragm along the rear axis. That is all the same. That has not changed. But what has changed in the interim is that the calculations and plan has been reviewed by the third-party engineer and has been accepted. Been basically, they agree with it and they have no more comments. And Wetlands has also been shown this and they have approved it as well. So overall, the plan has not changed. That said, I'm going to go back quickly through it just in case anybody wasn't here or anybody needs a refresher what the plan does entail. It's an 11-lot subdivision of the existing plant nursery type of farm agricultural use. There were a number of greenhouses in the existing condition. Most of them are gone now. But what's left is a tremendous amount of compacted gravel and asphalt ground that is very impervious. There's an existing residential structure up here near Coleman Road. There's an existing, I guess, office building near it. And then there's a large like bay, maintenance bay type of building and a pool that is abandoned. And then a lot of foundations and stuff where the greenhouses used to be. This plan proposes to get rid of all of that, just demolish it and take it out, reestablish turf, grass, put a cul-de-sac in with a rear access driveway to the 3 lots on the other side of the wetlands. This driveway is in the configuration it's in specifically to avoid impacting the wetlands. And there's, as we discussed previously, significant treatment of stormwater management or stormwater runoff before it gets into the wetlands and the existing ponds and then flows downstream so that it's a significantly cleaner water situation than what's currently existing. In the post-development condition, well, in the pre and post, there are 3 outfalls. There's an outfall here at the southern part of the ponds. There's an outfall just south of lot 10 over here, which actually continues on and then joins with the outfall from the ponds. And then there's an outfall that goes to Coleman Road into existing drainage systems and on that way. In all 3 outfalls, the post-development condition for all of the storm events is reduced. That is actually one thing that has changed since the last time. The last time I did the presentation, I had explained that there was a very slight increase in runoff going to Coleman Road, but that is no longer the case with some of these changes. So actually, in all 3 outfalls, it's reduced. That's essentially the project. Again, I guess we've been through it before. I don't know if you have any questions for me specifically. I'd be happy to answer.
Commission members? No. Comment number 3 on your proposal, was that obviously the barite mines? We don't have the comments here, but it says it would be taken by the attorney. That's the barite mine? Okay. Commission members, anything? Sorry, Ms. Townsend.
So this is a rear access lot, and per the subdivision regulations for the town, there's a small turnaround area. It's not a cul-de-sac, but it's a 50-foot diameter turnaround area that back here.
The other thing it was saying is that,
Microphone.
Yep, sorry. That the town's responsibility to provide services to lots serviced by the rear lot accessway ceases at the street line of the public street. So does that mean that the fire department doesn't have to go back there for any reason?
So no, the fire department does still respond, and this rear lot access conforms to their requirements, and I've provided to them, evidence that their truck, the largest truck, can maneuver through here. There's a fire hydrant here that's actually maintained. The fire hydrant itself is to be maintained by the town, and the water line running through here will be maintained by the Regional Water Authority.
So that becomes a public street all
No,
the way
no.
to the end.
I think our comments, the comment that you're
Yeah.
referring to deals more with the snow plowing, and correct me if I'm wrong, snow plowing, garbage would have to still be brought out to the
So
the
it
existing
doesn't, when
street.
they say public services, they're not talking about.
If I may.
Police and fire, no, that's something.
That's standard language from the subdivision regulations. We're basically putting the people who are going to buy those in those 3 lots on notice that the town has no responsibility for the rear lot access way. That it's a shared responsibility. We won't come back there, we won't maintain it, we won't plow it, we won't repair it. It's theirs.
But safety wise, I mean, if there's a fire or
Well,
a
it has
police
to be
emergency,
right,
they're going to be there.
absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. It has to be constructed to certain standards, which includes, the radius for the fire trucks, so police and fire can get in there. As far as the way it's designed, it is safe for emergency vehicles to get in there. But in terms of who has to maintain it, it's the owners of those 3 lots have to maintain it. But it's very standard language, so.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem.
Any other commissioners? Mr. Natale?
Not a question, I just want to go on the record. I was not here last time. Thank you for the brief update there, but I want to point out, I did watch the video, read the minutes, read all the materials, so I'm fully up to date.
Okay, I guess that's it for you. Mr. Fazone, want to tackle the Barrett's mines?
For the record, again, Anthony Fazone. At the beginning of the last public hearing, we discussed the fact that an issue had been raised about the potential of what I'll refer to as the Tripadena subdivision property being affected by Barite's mines or Barite mine passages. And the issue basically was the location of the mines and as they affected the Tripadena subdivision property. In the consulting engineers for the town, in one of their comments, cited a report entitled Landscape Archaeology of the Ginny Hill Mining District. And I've gone back, I've checked the documents that are on record, and actually they're maintained in a notebook I think in both in the Public Works office and in the town clerk's office. There are in fact 3 different reports that have been referred to in our discussions back and forth with the consulting engineers in the Public Works Department. And the other 2 reports, one, as I mentioned previously, was commissioned by the town. It's called the Cheshire Townwide Investigation of Mines and Adits. And again, that report was commissioned by the town and done with respect to the mines in the Peck Lane north part of Cheshire and specifically the Ginny Hill Mining District. And then the 3rd report is entitled Geoarchaeology of the Ginny Hill Mines. That one was basically a thesis for a doctorate a doctorate degree with from the University of Connecticut. There's one thing in common with the 3 reports that I'm mentioning. None of them identify the Tripadena subdivision property as having mining passages within its boundaries. In fact, the townwide report lists all of the properties that are affected by the Baraites mines. And within the documents that you have, the things that I've prepared, there's an Exhibit B that lists the properties that the report commissioned by the town state are affected by the mines and the passages. And the Tripadena property is not listed there. Florence Tripadena, the Tripadena family has owned that property since 1945. Florence Tripadena was the wife of the original owner. She was interviewed by the authors of two of the reports. And much of the information that is contained in the reports and information used to determine locations were based on interviews of residents in that area and investigations of their properties based on the interviews. And throughout all of these reports, the only mention of the Tripadena property, the subdivision property, is the fact that Mrs. Tripadena was interviewed by two of the authors. I mentioned the word adits. There's three components to these mines. There's the vein of the mine of the mineral itself. There are shafts that are drilled into the ground almost vertical to the vein. And then there are adits which go out perpendicular to the vein. And one of the issues that is brought up in the memo from it seems like we're down to, we have a letter from the consulting engineers about two basic aspects of it. And one of which is the statement that the middle shaft, there are three shafts to the mine, to the vein in question that's south of the Tripadena subdivision property. There are three shafts, vertical shafts, and the comment is that the middle shaft has not been located, and there is in one of the reports coordinates given to locate not only the eastern shaft but also the central shaft. I think I gave copies in the last report. Did you receive the letter dated December 2nd with all of the materials attached to it?
Mailing.
Yeah.
The report that you gave us on this all went to the commission before the last meeting.
I don't know. The color of the small plan that we gave didn't come out very well, at least I saw. So I have additional, I will pass these out. The eastern shaft is located 122 feet, basically south of the Tripadena property. And then the central shaft, which it's mentioned is not located, is in fact located, and it is 83 feet southwest of the southwestern corner of the Tripadena property. It, and it's actually about another 83 feet from any area of the subdivision, which would be on lot 7, that where there would be any building. And I'd like to pass these out. So these basically show the location of the 2 shafts as they are anywhere near the Tripadena property.
Is that this?
The one in red is the eastern up near closest to Coleman Road.
Anthony, would this be the map you're referring to, or is it something different?
That, I'll explain that.
Okay.
The 11 by 17 map is something that I put together based on the identifications of the properties that were affected by the mine. And it goes all the way back to, and actually goes beyond Ginny Hill and Radmere. And it was an attempt on my part to, all of the affected properties are numbered in red. And the line is a line that goes through all of those properties to attempt to show where the main vein was. You should also have a grayish looking map, which has a yellow designation on it as to where the vein is, where the main part of the mine is.
Yeah.
You got extras?
It's all in here.
I need a set of those, please. Thank you.
It's the same stuff we already have. We have it was in my packet anyways.
Yeah, there was, I put in about a 3-page exhibit at the first public hearing, and that might have had that gray map. And I just, because it's come up in our discussions, right. Let me make sure. The gray map has a area called the central vein, and that's the vein that runs basically parallel to the Tripadena property and south of the Tripadena property.
Do you know the depth of the central main?
At some points, it's 600 feet deep. And another reference is 400 feet. At the request of the Public Works and Engineering and the town's consulting engineers, we had a request by them to do ground penetrating radar. There was a report that was done and was submitted. There was a request for additional information on the credentials of the individual who performed the test. You should have a copy of the first report by ACS, which shows the little sled that goes around it, and it shows that they did the entire western boundary of the site and the entire southern boundary of the site. I don't believe, all right. I don't believe you got the revised report. I have copies of that. The conclusions are the same, but it has the credentials of the person and the circumstances under what they did it.
Is that what you left us here tonight?
We did email these out to you, and Jocelyn
It
probably.
was
made a
on, it was
copy.
in the, it was
This
on
is it
the,
right here.
it was
Yeah.
in front of everyone's thing tonight. Yeah, we have
This
that.
one, we have, yeah.
The town attorney was also brought into the picture with respect to, I guess, the original opinion had to do with the suitability of land for subdivision, and then, but then got into the specifics of the location of the mine. And he gave an opinion. He went through the kind of my comments and the consulting engineer's comments. He points out that Florence Tripadina was a listed source with respect to the variety location in one of the reports, and he points out that ground penetrating radar was used to detect mine passages, and yet all of the reports say basically other than the main shaft, there's little or no evidence of the adits that went out vertically or horizontally, I'm sorry. And the conclusions that I reached, saying that that there were no portion, that comments from the reports that indicated that no portion of the Ginny Hill Variety Mine is located on the 791 Coleman Road property. And then he talked about, Attorney D'Onofrio talked about a critical question, is whether the investigation performed to date is adequate to draw the conclusion that no portion of the Ginny Hill Variety Mine is located on the 791 Coleman Road. There's been no investigation of that since the 90s, when issues came up with respect to the area near close to Peck Lane. But to my knowledge, there haven't been any significant issues with respect to the Ginny Hill mine. Certainly there hasn't been anything on the Tripadina subdivision property. He goes on to say that the location of the middle shaft in relation to the subdivision parcel is not identified. That was one of the comments by the consulting engineers. One, in fact, it has been identified and its location has been spelled out with geographic coordinates. And then I think that the important part here, the significant thing with respect to the town attorney's opinion, he says, unless B&L, the consulting engineers, or the town have reason to believe that the adits that were installed in the shafts of the central main of the mine are on 791 Coleman Road, and or that the middle shaft is on or close to 790 Coleman Road, we would be speculating as to the location of same and cannot base an opinion or agency action on speculation, the Planning and Zoning Commission being the agency. I mentioned that the ground penetrating radar report was redone to answer the questions that they had. Tonight, Paul Bowman, who's involved in the subdivision, he owned property and developed property on Chestnut over near Peck Lane. And what we are prepared to do is at the appropriate time that they would have a backhoe on the property, let town authorities, the Public Works and Engineering know about it, and they have to do excavating there. Oddly enough, for example, the septic systems are, the lots along the southern side of the property. Mr. Bowman will explain what they did with respect to, they actually found adits on the property on Chestnut, but he'll get up and explain what he's prepared to do to determine whether there are any adits that touch the Tripadina property on the southern boundary, and what can be done to alleviate that problem.
Mr. Natale has a question before.
Attorney Fasano, before you leave the podium. So do we have anybody from ACS that can educate us a little more on the ground penetrating radar? Because from what you said, the main vein could be from 400 to 600 feet down. The ground penetrating radar, from what I see, went down 17 feet.
They weren't looking for the shafts that go down 400 feet.
Okay.
They're looking to see, and the adits that are a problem are the ones near the surface. That's what might collapse.
Are there any reports or anything that indicate how far down those could be?
They could be 400 feet down, 600 feet down. But there are vestiges of them were found down near Ginny Hill Road, but they were like exits to get in and then down into the shafts. So that they would put them up near the surface to make the shafts and then to go down and do the lateral drilling.
So the ground penetrating radar went down almost 17 feet. Even with a backhoe, you get down 20 feet, at 25 feet, there could be.
Oh, there'll be more down below, but none of those there's never been any, I forget exactly what the word is, but there's never been any sinkholes created for anything but the surface ones.
Okay.
Mr. Bickerton.
Have you guys looked at the hazard mitigation plan that the COGS had put out? So I got that today. I just happened to be poking around, interested in the mines more than this. And they go into detail on the 400 to 600 feet and the dangers of sinkholes. And they explain that the sinkholes happened where the vertical shafts are. None of them are from the audits that are there. So it might be something good to print out, give to us, and to look to yourselves on this, and explains a lot of it and how safe it is.
Okay, I have not seen that. I wasn't referred to it.
Mr. Tedesco.
So, excuse me, first of all, you read from the attorney's report. Do we have that bill?
No. There's been a lot of back and forth between the town attorney and engineering department, not really as an opinion addressed to the commission. It's been discourse between the engineering staff, the consulting engineers, and the town attorney. So,
It seems like there was a lot of relevant information in there to make the decision by the commission, whether we follow it or not follow it. I thought I heard him say the council said that without some further evidence, we're speculating. That was all mentioned that briefly. That's the kind of report that I think we'd like to, and that's, there's some reason why we shouldn't have it. It seems to me that the commission wants that. I don't know if you agree or disagree. The second question is, a minute ago you mentioned.
Yeah, Mr. Lou, your mic's not on.
Sorry, Mr. Fazone, you mentioned a couple minutes ago that the danger, I think the word is subsidence, is that right?
Substance.
I've learned two new words as a result of this application that added, which I didn't know, but anyway, that the issue of subsidence only occurred with respect to surface adits, I think is what you said a few minutes ago. What is your source of that? I mean,
Well, I
where'd
don't
you get that
think
from?
I don't, just in reading about the sinkholes, I don't think any of the sinkholes have been anything near 100 feet deep or two. They've been more in the, surface area.
And, okay, but
And they refer to the sinkholes in
But
those reports.
you're kind of offering that as almost like an expert opinion. I know you're not quite doing that.
I'm offering for what I've read from all these reports.
Okay, and are those reports things that we have already as
You
part of
have parts of them, you don't have they're all, it's 40 pages, 35 pages.
And you're saying the reports you have read indicate that it's only adits that are near the surface
where they
that have
found
caused
the sinkhole.
subsidence.
Yeah, and I think Mr. Bowman can be more accurate about that.
I mean, is that a position that's generally held with people who've studied these kinds of things generally?
I don't know, I can't say yes.
Yeah, I don't know that I'm not, I don't
Yeah.
expect that you would, but I'm just trying
I'm
to
just saying.
tease out what the certainty is of these different what the certainties of these different propositions.
So I am predominantly a site civil design engineer, but I've had a fairly significant, I'm sorry, my name is Ryan Thompson, RCL Thompson, engineer, licensed professional engineer and land surveyor. Again, I'm predominantly a site civil engineer. I do this type of work, but I've had a fairly significant amount of geotechnical engineering experience throughout my career. I wouldn't call myself specifically a mine expert. I don't want anybody to get that opinion, but I will tell you that what Mr. Fazone is saying is accurate. It's consistent with what I've learned in school, what I've seen. If you have a mine shaft 600 feet down, the stuff that's going on the surface is not going to result in a sinkhole, by and large, just because of the way the earth, the soil shift and everything else. If there was a collapse in there, it would attenuate throughout the layers of the soil. What is the danger? What I believe would be the danger, and what I think is consistent with what's in the documentation that he's referring to, is that if you have holes or loose debris or things that weren't backfilled and compacted that are close to the surface, and I don't know what that level is, but it's going to be somewhere in that 20, 30, 40 feet. That's where you're going to see some risk of a sinkhole, just because that's where that material can compact in on itself and create a subsidence of the material compressing down. So I think that just from my education and my degree and my master's degree in civil engineering and the studies that I've done throughout the years, I can confirm that what he's saying is consistent with what I've learned in my education. So I want to make sure that everybody's clear, though, that I'm not a mine expert. Please don't take that as expert. So,
Thank you.
Mr. Natale, then Mr. Brigado.
So I know that Mr. Didisco indicated that memo or the correspondence with the town attorney. Since we haven't seen it, and I'll ask both of you, Bill and Attorney Fazone, have they said anything about any potential liability for the town?
The question really is, first of all, was where are the shafts, adits in relationship to the property. That was my principal concern. So it was really about first trying to get them to go through the records and then create a record with respect to the adits. So no, there's been no discussion of liability. It was really, first of all, to define or decide or discover where the mining activity was in relationship to the property. I believe what Anthony's trying to do tonight is to establish that, and we don't have any reason to disagree with that there's no mining activity underneath this property. That's the issue. Well, and that was the words why speculation was raised, because the town attorney was trying to tell the engineering consultant, ours, hold on, be careful, because don't assume just because there's mining activity next door that it comes onto this property. The town records aren't tremendous, but they're good enough to and you know, we gave you the information at the last meeting and that was our concern, is show us where it is, because you need to know that. We all need to know that. A buyer needs to know that, including this buyer of this property. And so that was the town attorney's concern about, be careful we don't, you know, speculate, that we can't really go beyond what the records show. And I'll
And the
let
record,
Anthony
but
respond.
the records don't show where the adits could be. So
Well, yeah, they do.
they do.
I'm gonna let Anthony respond.
Well, the adits are not mapped.
It's not the
Yeah.
shafts. Okay.
Not the
got it.
Right. So
shafts are-
and the adits are where the problems
Yeah.
occur.
So what we're being asked to do is one of the hardest things that there is in the law, is to prove a negative. And what I think what the town attorney is saying is basically, if it's just speculation that they're on the Tripadena subdivision property, if there's no real indication, and I'm trying to bring forward information that undermines the speculation that it is on the Tripadena property, that as an agency, he's saying you can't rely on that speculation in your decision.
Okay. And that's why I'm asking about the town attorney. So if we buy in, speculate that the adits are off the property, and something does happen, and there is a sinkhole that pops up that nobody knew about because there was an adit, I'm just asking if the town attorney's given the opinion, is there any liability?
Given no
on the town?
opinion with respect to that. There's
Should
no.
we get one?
You can ask him for one. So. To date, he has had given no opinions on that.
I mean, personally, I think personally we should probably get just an opinion from him on that.
So when I was reading the hazard mitigation plan that's put out by Naugatuck Valley COG, they in there, and this still has to go through the attorney, says that that Cheshire's not liable. And that all past sinkholes were filled either by the town that did take some action or by property owners. My question to you is, and one of in my looking around, I found that there was an article that was put out, I think it was late 80s, early 90s, of a lady that moved into one of these properties in Florida to get away from sinkholes, and then she had a sinkhole on her property. And it was never known to her that there were mines on there. So in selling of these properties, will there be any kind of notification to the new property owners that there possibly could been mining at depths or whatever, that just so they're aware that there was possible mining on that property? Not that there's any liability on any part, or you're going to get sinkholes, or just some way so they're not blindsided if something down the road happened. We had a little earthquake and one of those lower shafts open up and there is a sinkhole. How do we let property owners know that?
Well, I think it's been our position in terms of what we've been doing is that if there were more indication or some indication that, you know, the adits went into this property, I think that would be appropriate. But at this point in time, there's nothing that indicates that. And, you know, you're creating a marketing nightmare. You know, you go, where do you stop? You know?
Mr. Tedesco.
Well, of course, that's a very relevant fact. So the point you're making is and I guess we're going to hear more about that, is that there's no evidence as a fact of adits underneath the Tripolina property, correct?
Correct.
Okay, yeah. My point about the town attorney's letter, though, I just want to be clear on what I was saying there. What we have is a reference to one or two sentences from a letter which wasn't directed to us. And that's being used, well, let me finish.
Yeah,
And it's being used to tell us that we shouldn't be speculating as to the existence of adits, and that's wrong legally. But that's not a letter that was directed to us, and it's one or two sentences out of it mentioned by counsel during argument. That's not the kind of thing that I would rely on, frankly. If I'm going to rely on that as giving me legal advice, I want to see the whole document. That's all. If we don't get it, we don't get it, but I'm just letting you know what my thinking is on that. I'm sorry.
You gotta understand, there was email exchanges, there was a lot of things going back and forth, and so, yeah.
And that's fine, but, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's good. But then it's used as part of an argument to the commission, and then, and it seems to me that we have a right to more than
Oh,
that.
completely understood, yeah.
So would that be something that could be gotten for us?
Sure, I
Sure.
mean, you guys are entitled to see
Yeah.
anything that, but generally, sometimes there's emails and memos and conversations that aren't really,
Yeah, but I think what
We'll get
Mr. Tedesco was saying
No,
is
we
the fact
can
that it
get
was
that, yeah.
referenced in,
we will speak more directly.
okay. Mr. Yeah.
Good evening. For the record, Paul Bowman, 387 Mount Sanford Road in Cheshire. It's all interesting conversation, and quite frankly, I heard it before with the Skabakis farm on Peck Lane in the early 90s. In fact, that property was identified to have a mine. There was no speculation. It was very clear. There was a 300-foot shaft. There were several adits that went out of the main shaft, and we hired consulting engineers at the time to do an assessment. This is different, in my opinion, from 791 Coleman Road, because there is no evidence that there's adits there, and we're chasing a ghost. So in my experience, I'm very cautious to condemn a property based on speculation, whether it's an abutting property or whether it's the property of that's in question this evening. I wouldn't even go on the abutting property owner's property when there was the wetlands walkthrough, because I had not permission to do so, and I didn't want to be asked questions in speculation. So there is evidence of mines in that area. I lived at 61 Merwin Circle many years ago, and one of those adits exited right below my property. I'm aware of the mines in that area. To get back to the Peck Lane mine, I have extensive experience in dealing with the adits. We actually dug an adit up. I'm probably one of the few residents of Cheshire that went into an adit. It was about 26 feet below the ground. It was dug by Ken Cianci and his crew. And the town was there, and it was well documented. The adit was was solid stone. It was a red rock. It had a ceiling at about 8 feet. It had about 2 feet of water in it, and you could see very small remnants of the barite. Very light coloration in some of the stone that they didn't chip out and collect. There was evidence, and there was overburden of about 16 feet of topsoil, common fill, and gravelly material. There was evidence of some of the adits sinking. We saw small depressions in the property, basically in a straight line. We uncovered the adit. We dug down the 23 feet. The ceiling of this adit was stone, solid rock, bedrock. more of a red rock. We collapsed it all along the property line. There were 1 or 2 properties that were affected. We collapsed the top at it. Dr. Hedberg and Bob Jones, who were authors of the town report as well, indicated that that was all that was needed to be done because everything below it was solid rock, and the likelihood of that further collapsing was between slim and none. So this was done many years ago, almost 30 years ago. In the houses where in the foundations where we found the adits, we put rebar in the footings and we put rebar in the walls as an extra precaution. And we would do that on any condition, site condition that we found, whether it was soils that weren't stable, organics, water, any type of issues that we encounter in the field in the normal course of business. We make field decisions immediately to address those things. And in that particular case, we used number 5 rebar in the footings and in the walls. I walked the Tripadena property. I saw no evidence whatsoever of any depressions, which makes me as a buyer feel more comfortable that there are not any issues with adits in that area. As far as the ground penetrating radar, we decided to do that as a precaution, and we did it on the western portion of the property, also along the southerly portion as well. There's probably a 2.5, 3 acre parcel of land that was tested. My experience with ground penetrating radar is I've done it on other properties in Cheshire, including the Tripadena property. It's probably over 40 acres of property that I engaged with a firm to do ground penetrating radar, looking for hollows and voids. So that's my experience. Certainly when we get building permits, each department has to sign off on it, including an inspection of the foundation area after it's dug for stable soils. And during that time, obviously, if we find an issue, we're going to deal with it because I've been doing this a long time, and the last thing I want is a problem anytime in the future. With that, if anyone wants to ask me any questions on my experience, I'd be happy to share it with you.
Any commission members? No. Well, thank you, Mr. Bowman. That was very informative. Mr. Vazone, anything further before we go to the public?
That's basically our presentation.
Okay. Anyone from the public wishing to speak on this? Sure. You just like before, come up and name and address for the record.
I'm Judy Hill, 815 Coleman Road in Cheshire. I'm right on the border of where the entrance would be on Coleman Road. Just to give a little background, I moved, well, I was born and raised in Cheshire. I knew the Tripadena family growing up. They were somewhat friends. I went to school with Mike's older brother, Vinny Tripadena, and I knew Mike and Rhonda. 45 years ago, we moved back to Cheshire. My children were friendly with Mike's children. One of the things that I remember specifically is at the entrance of the farm entrance into the Tripadena property, there was a small, I'll call it a pond. My kids used to play there. There was ice there near the road. A few years later, Mike built a berm, put a berm near the side of the road, planted a tree. The water that was there moved towards my side so that that part of my land became wet. It gets very muddy now. During the time that we have lived there, when I moved there, the only thing that was on the Tripadena property was Florence's house, and there was a shed type work area And after they built the new one, which obviously is much bigger. But anyway, a lot of changes were made. There were only 3 or 4 greenhouses when we moved there. During the time that we lived there and soon after is when the property began to change from truck garden to the pachysandra mostly, but other kinds of plants. And many more greenhouses were put in. When greenhouses were put in next to my property, he built up the land. One, to make it level, it was easier. There was some runoff. It created more of a wetland part in part of my backyard, which I own about according to the paper, 2.3. I was always told 2.9 acres. But anyway, it goes back along the Tripadena property. That property is wet because there was a buildup of the greenhouses. Again, I said I was friendly with the Tripadenas. I knew them. My kids knew them. I didn't make any fuss over it. I wasn't going to build a house on it. I didn't care. Couple weeks ago, and I went out and counted because I saw dump trucks coming in, dumping dirt in, not way back, but say maybe the first third back of the property of Mike Tripadena's that borders onto mine. And I went and counted, and there were actually 60 piles of trucks that came in and dumped dirt. I don't know why. Maybe logical, but all I could think is they want to build up the land. If they build up the land on Mike's side, the water flows to my side. And I haven't, excuse me, I haven't heard this addressed of any wet area on the front part of the property. There's no way for that land that I can see to have it drain off into the ponds that are way down in the back part of the property. So I'm not here to complain. I don't like all those houses going up. My own farm, family farm is someday maybe developed also. So I'm not objecting to that, but I want to know if that has been addressed, the buildup, is it going to impact water flow with my property?
Okay, thank you. Would you like to come up and address the runoff issue? The professional's gonna speak
Well,
towards
I
it.
know, but I live there.
Oh, I'm with you, yeah.
And I don't think anyone ever knew that there was a little pond in front. I said it was only about 20 feet square. But you understand where I'm saying?
I 100% know what you're talking about. And I'm going to turn this actually so you can see. You go ahead. Yeah, so. I'm sorry, Ryan Thompson, professional engineer and land surveyor, RCO Thompson. So I'm going to address the comment here. She's referring to a little wet area right here, which I saw when I did the survey, and you actually came out and talked to me, and I'm aware of that. This actually is not being touched at all, that part. That's not, if you look here, the limits of disturbance actually go around that specifically. There is over here, which is also part of your property, there's a, right here south of lot 10, there's a natural drainage that comes through here. I believe that's what you're talking about when they build up the greenhouses, drain down. And I wanted to explain here, we are proposing to do almost like an M shape. From here, it goes up, then back down to the road, across the road, back up, and then back down. And what happens is all the runoff that comes right through here and here goes to the road. So from roughly this point going to the west and basically between my fingers here, all the way through here, all that gets collected in these catch basins. No, I'm talking about this one right here. Yep. So everything along this road, except for this portion right here going east, that all flows down to the road, into the gutter, into the catch basins, through the pipes, into this forebay, these swells, and down here. So it actually reduces what's going through your property pretty significantly. In the 100-year storm, it goes from, right now, it's 1.82 cubic feet per second, which I know means nothing, but after this, based on my, well, after this, it'll be 0.3. So it's 20% of the runoff that's currently there. They're going to have septic, but they're going to have city water or public water.
Because that, why, what were those piles of dirt there?
I'm not aware of the piles of dirt.
This 60, as I said, I couldn't count it. You know, when a dump truck dumps it, it's in certain piles. And I counted 60 of those in this area.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, well, I just, okay, I don't know anything about the piles of dirt, but I can tell you, but yes, but they are, it is, and I showed you here. So it's going to basically go from the existing ground, it's going to go uphill and then back downhill to the road, then back uphill on this side and then back downhill to the existing ground. So it is coming up, but that's bringing the entire system of the drainage system so that it drains back down here. So it does come up, and you do have a portion of it that continues to go south onto your property, but it's 20% of what's currently going on your property. So it's a significant reduction of water actually right here. And then this over here isn't being addressed, it's not being touched at all. That's completely outside of the limits.
See, my concern is what kind of underground water was there leading to that original pond? I shouldn't call it a pond.
I don't think that's, I think that's just water runoff from the street here. From, right, you know, it may be coming from the street, it might be coming from, I don't think that's groundwater at all.
But there was a berm built there.
Yeah.
That pushed it into the pond. It wasn't wet there until they put the berm.
You're talking about years ago. Yeah, I mean, I can only tell you what's currently there, and I don't know when that berm was done. I can't really address that, but what I can tell you is we're reducing impervious area, we're reducing runoff significantly. We're actually reducing runoff onto your property significantly. Your property gets the most significant decrease of all of the runoff. So just it mainly through here.
Mr. Mercado has a question.
Yes. Can you spin that around and go back over this? Because last meeting I asked you about that, where all that water would flow, and you told me specifically that it was all going to maintain and flow the way it naturally does now. Now today you're saying 20% of it is going to flow that way, and the rest is going into the street. And I asked that last meeting because I wanted to know how much extra flow was going into this pond that possibly can go down and cause a problem in the lower pond.
But again, so, okay. What I said last time and what I say today are actually the same thing. I'm not being inconsistent. The natural drainage, there's 3 outfalls. There's the one on Coleman Road, there's the one south of Lot 10, and there's the one on coming out of the pond. The outfalls stay the same. The runoff going to, and this one is outfall 2, okay? The runoff going to outfall 2 continues to come from outfall 2, but we're capturing it. We're capturing some of it. And I did say this last time. We're capturing some of that in the catch basin system and bringing it here. The reason why there's an overall reduction is because we're using significant water management systems over here to hold that water, delay it before it continues to flow out. And in addition, these ponds in and of themselves serve as detention systems. And so, you know, there's a 400-page drainage calculation book that has all these calculations. It's been reviewed. It's been accepted. I guess what I'm asking you is, please trust that I'm not trying to pull wool over your eyes. These are actual numbers and actual reductions in runoff, and it's through these systems. And we're maintaining the same outfalls. There's no change in outfall. So I'm not sure if, I certainly didn't want to mislead you. I'm
No,
not
it
trying
didn't-
to.
It didn't come across that way
Okay.
last meeting, so
Okay,
I wanted that just clarified for us
Yeah.
today.
no problem.
Okay, is there anyone else from the public wishing to speak?
Do you want to ask another?
You have another question? No, we need you to, Mrs. Hill, we need you to take the microphone. I'm up here. Sorry, I know it gets up here. If you do have a question.
All I was asking is where that rear access was. 'Cause you said it wasn't near the pond.
The rear access, is that what you're saying?
No, the rear access,
Access.
the rear access road is right around the pond. I'm not sure what,
I didn't know where that, because that's why the newspaper, when it said in the newspaper, it says a cul-de-sac and then a rear access.
Ma'am, the rear lot access way is to create 3 building lots in the back. There's no other access out of the property other than what's
Yeah.
proposed through the main road. We call it a rear lot access for lots that sit to the rear. Okay.
I understand that now, but I didn't then. I thought you meant back to Coleman or Radmere or.
no, it's just to access these 3 lots.
Anyone else from the public wishing to speak on this? No, okay. The issue's been raised. Do you have more to, just to give us, Mr. Fazone?
No.
Okay. So Mr. Tedesco brought up the issue of the town attorney's conversations and emails with the,
Get that for you, Mr. Chairman. I would recommend you extend the hearing to January 10th.
okay.
Yep.
That was my question, whether we needed to see that or not. So with that, we'll be extending here to January 10th. Thank you.
Thank you.
Number 4 has withdrawn their application. Could we hear number 5 and 6, re-subdivision application and special permit application, rear lot access way, please?
3 subdivision application of Catherine Ardesia, care of John Gable, Connecticut Consulting Engineers LLC, 1 Prestige Drive, Suite 110, Meriden, Connecticut 06450, for a 2-lot subdivision, property located at Cheshire Street 06410, as generally shown on Assessor's Map number 20, lot number 18 in R40 zone. Number 6 is the special permit application of Catherine Ardesia, care of John Gable, Connecticut Consulting Engineers LLC, 1 Prestige Drive, Suite 110, Meriden, Connecticut 06450, for a rear lot access way, property located at 1785 Cheshire Street, Cheshire, Connecticut, as generally shown on Assessor's Map number 20, lot number 18 in an R40 zone.
Thank you, and representing the applicant.
Good evening. For the record, John Gable with Connecticut Consulting Engineers, with offices in Meriden, Connecticut. Stated I'm here on behalf of the owner and applicant, Catherine Ardesia. Yes. Oh, yes, Gable, Gabel. Connecticut Consulting Engineers. Thanks. So I'm here tonight on behalf of Catherine Ardesia. We are here for the re-subdivision of our property located at 1785 Cheshire Street. We're also asking for a special permit for rear lot access. The total site consists of 6.35 acres, and it's located and surrounded to the north, south, and east by the R40 zone, and to the west, the I2 zone. Let me just come around the front here. So this is the existing house. We're going to cut this piece out, and it's currently served by private well and private septic system. This one is about 2.11 acres, and we have the remaining land in the back here. We do have access off at Cheshire Street with a 50-foot right-of-way or access way. And the Lot A the proposed lot was going to be comprised of 3.76 acres. and the access way is about 0.48 acres. We performed soil testing for the septic system feasibility with the Chesapeake Health District, and we did B100A compliance for the existing lot in the front. Let me just look at my notes. And we did, the western part of the property is abutting the Quinnipiac River, and we had to go to wetlands for that, which we did receive approval for. And we also had to make applications with the Regional Water Authority for the project notification form because we're in an aquifer area. We also had to submit an application to the Connecticut Department of Public Health and DEP for the statewide reporting form and natural diversity database application. The DEP did send us correspondence for state listed species that are occurring with the vicinity of our site. One was the herring that's in the Quinnipiac River, and they also identified 2 turtle species along the river there. As part of our proposal, we are about 380 feet away from the river area, so there's going to be no impact to the habitats for the turtle habitats. But we do have a protection plan in place that's on the subdivision map during construction activity. And also, we did get correspondence from the consulting town engineer, which we had addressed. We did not receive any comments from them at this time. And I'd like to see if the commission had any comments regarding our proposal.
Bill, is everything else set with the engineering department?
This is a pretty straightforward application, 1 lot, rear lot access way, no issues.
But all the 4 issues he said they were taken care of,
Right.
definitely taken care of.
Right.
Any comments from
No.
any of the agencies he talked about? Okay.
No,
Any questions?
We did
from-
have comments from the fire department regarding the.
Oh, we had that. Yeah.
Request that the driveway be paved in its
Yep.
entirety.
Okay.
So, because of the distance, they're asking for paved surface, so.
And commission members, questions?
That
Mr. McCall?
paved services, that's just a request. It doesn't have to be there.
The applicant has consented to it already even, so.
What
No,
was the
I'm
question?
just wondering about the regs. Does it-
No, not for that one.
okay.
What was the question? I didn't hear.
Does it have to
Does
be
it have to be
paved or if it was
paved?
just a request?
Sorry.
It's required.
Okay. Any other commission members? No? Yeah, it's a pretty easy one. Public, anyone from the public wishing to speak? No? Okay, I'll be closing the public hearing. Thank you. I don't have my gavel. Okay, moving on. Number 7, proposed re-subdivision of Bickerton Woods. And number 8, rear lot access. Ms. Downs, don't go too far. I think we need you back. We hear the call for that. Please.
Yep, number 7 and 8. 7, the proposed revision to Bickerton Woods subdivision, Phase 2, Andrea Court of Brodak Bickerton LLC, 202 Highland Avenue, Cheshire, Connecticut, 06410, for 1 additional building lot property located on Andrea Court is generally shown on Assessor's Map number 66, lot number 79 in an R80 zone. Number 8, the special permit application of Brodak Bickerton LLC, 202 Highland Avenue, Cheshire, Connecticut, 06410, for rear lot access way property located on Andrea Court, as generally shown on Assessor's Map number 66, lot number 79, in an R80 zone.
Okay, thank you. And represent the applicant?
Yes, I'm Ryan Thompson with RCL Thompson LLC, engineer and land surveyor for this project. It's a very straightforward request. It's 1 house on a 13-acre plus lot. It's well inside the setbacks. There's some wetlands. We're well outside of the wetlands. It's already gone before the wetland commission. And I believe the only comment that has been made is that the house is 65 feet beyond, so that the rear driveway coming off the existing rear access driveway is about 65 feet longer than it needs to be. So we will modify the plan to bring that up to within that 65 feet. Other than that, I don't believe there are any outstanding comments on this or any concerns that I'm aware of.
That's correct, Mr. Chairman. The fire department raised that issue. The maximum length of the driveway is 335 feet. 335 feet goes from the edge of the rear lot access way originally created to the bulb that they're putting in on the driveway, goes right to the center of that. But the fire department expressed a concern that, especially in an area where there's no water lines, that they shorten the driveway some, and they have consented to do that, so.
So that's the only issue? from
Correct.
Any of the town?
Yeah, this is interesting. This was a holdover lot that is 13 acres inside. The applicants were looking, I think, to assemble more land, to perhaps do a longer road, to connect it with other roads, but that's not going to happen. And they really, all they can do here is one lot.
And they're well within the
Everything
the
is,
amount of lots.
it's not an issue. It's just going to be one very nice, large estate lot. But they would not comply with various requirements if they were to try to do more in there, so.
Gotcha.
Bill, just a quick question. It wasn't part of a subdivision where it was extra property to equal out bigger lots, was it?
They showed it as other land, not a building lot, when that phase 2 was approved. Okay, the original subdivision
But
map,
all the lots are 80,000 square foot lots.
it's an R80 district.
Okay.
Yeah.
They weren't like smaller lots and then this was an overflow.
No. They
like a-
created as many lots as they could reasonably create when they
Okay.
originally
That's
subdivided the
why I was just
property.
concerned
Yeah.
with that because it seems like
Yeah,
it says
this-
here not a building lot and I was wondering why. it
Yeah,
said not.
because it was land banked, essentially hoping to acquire additional property to do even more.
Okay.
But that hasn't happened, and so they really, all they're gonna do is convert it from other land into a building lot, and there's really no reason why you can't approve this one.
Okay, thanks.
Anyone from the public wishing to speak on this application? No? Okay. Nothing further. I'll close this public hearing. Moving on, number 9, the accessory apartment, Public Act 21-29, for Planning and Zoning Commission. We're considering opting out of requirements regarding the standards of accessory apartments. Can I have a call for that?
The continuation of the public hearing for the Planning and Zoning Commission as to, or not to, opt out of the requirements for Public Act 21-29 regarding the standards of accessory apartments.
Thank you. And Bill, you have something from our,
Mr. Chairman, we did prepare a resolution for you to adopt once you, town attorney has reviewed it. I have no additional guidance to town attorney other than we did combine in our efforts to draft a resolution for opting out and referring it to the council. I remind you that it does also have to go to the council following action by you under the statute, but the really, no one is, I don't think, real interested in the fact that you're opting out. There may be some interest in anything that you do with respect to the regulations following your opting out, but really there's been no questions raised to us about opting out. But we did prepare a resolution, which we'll read for you as part of the, reviewing, doing the motions following.
sure,
conclusion.
our regular meeting?
Yeah.
Yeah. Commissioner members have any issues with that? No. Anyone from the public wishing to speak on this? No? Okay, so we'll take it up at the regular meeting. Close that public hearing. With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the public hearing. Moved by Mr. Selmont, second by Mr. Mercado. Move Mr. Strollo, seconded by Mr. Mercado. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All right, we'll move right into, yes. Mr. Strollo and Mr. Mercado. Sorry. To redo. 1, 2, 3. Let me know when you're ready. No problem. Sorry for the rushing. It was a long one. It was a long public hearing. Good to go? Perfect. Okay, I'd like to call to order the Planning and Zoning Commission regular meeting for Monday, December 13th, 2021. Can I get a motion to accept the minutes from our special meeting, public hearing, and regular meeting from November 22nd, 2021? Moved by Mr. Natale, seconded by Mr. Bowman. Any corrections, or anything wrong with the minutes? Anything to put into it? Sensing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Okay, motion carries 8-0-1 with Mr. Natale abstaining. I'd like to put off the election offers to the end of the meeting if I could. Communications, we have a letter from Sean Kimball, 820 view review. Do we have that? Do you have that thing?
I do have the letter. This is a this is property located in the north end that you've heard about in the past that the
No.
state is willing to give us guardianship of for its sale and possibly, for strengthening the economic base. Total of 58 acres. It's in the interchange zone. It's across the street from the former WS stuff. State has the commuter parking lot on not the portion that they're giving us. The commuter parking lot will remain there, but it's wrapped around the commuter parking lot. But
Seems like
they're giving it to us not to own it necessarily free and clear, but if we sell it, the proceeds have to be returned to the state. It's really there for our benefit for growth in the grand list, and so
Great opportunity for us.
we hope
For
so.
Cheshire,
Again, it's about getting utilities in place and working collaboratively and hopefully getting something good to happen there. But it is in the interchange zone. Could be interchange special development district someday. There's a lot of options for the town, a lot of things looking forward that you might want to consider doing with it. But they are going to give it to us, so to speak. But you do need an 824, Section 824 review in order to accept it, which we have in our motions on this, if you want to.
Everyone okay with it? Yeah.
Section 8-24 review, conveyance of 3 parcels of land to the town from the state of Connecticut on Milldale Road, Connecticut, Interstate I-691. The Cheshire Planning and Zoning Commission find the conveyance of 3 parcels of land to the town from the state of Connecticut of Milldale Road and Interstate 691, not in conflict with 2016 Plan of Conservation and Development as amended. This shall constitute the commission's report relative to review in accordance with Section 8-24 of the Connecticut General Statutes.
Moved by Mr. Dawson, seconded by Mr. Ricardo. Discussion on this motion. Mr. Ricardo.
For Bill, with the utilities they're putting up there now for that area, is there any tie-ins to that or no?
Yes, the utilities are planned with those properties in mind. I've been in those discussions, so
good.
I absolutely, sure,
Thanks.
sure.
Anyone else on the motion? Okay. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Motion carries unanimous. Under unfinished business, number 1, we held open. Number 2, special permit application to Cumberland Farms to construction 243-foot square foot storage box. Do we have someone here to represent it?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. My name is Matt Rinelli. I'm from the law firm of Shipman and Goodwin. My office is at 265 Church Street in New Haven, and I'm here on behalf of Cumberland Farms for the special permit modification. Sure. It's Rinelli, R-A-N-E-L-L-I. Shipman and Goodwin. Yep. Mr. Chairman, if I could just take one moment before I get started and recognize, as did one of the previous speakers, Planner Volker's last meeting or upcoming last meeting, and just on a personal note, say thank you as the past chair of the Planning and Zoning Commission of the Connecticut Bar Association, and also through my work on various meetings with the Connecticut chapter of the American Planners Association. I know Bill has done a lot for both organizations, and we're grateful, and I have been had applications in front of him on numerous occasions, and have always appreciated his.
It was always cruel but fair, Matt, correct? Right, yes.
professional. I will say my second meeting as an attorney, Bill, you probably don't know that was in front of
Thank
you.
Yeah.
But always professional and fair, and everyone in the profession appreciates.
Matt, thank you
his
very
work.
much. I really appreciate that. Thank
You're
you.
welcome. And my whole office feels the same way. So I represent Cumberland Farms. You have the property in question is at 626 Maple Avenue. It's zoned C2. It's currently an existing Cumberland Farms. It's previously Sitco. And we're seeking a minor modification of the existing special permit to add a 243 square foot storage area on the rear portion. It's really the front portion, the Maple Avenue portion of the building. There's a little exit there with what if it were a house would look like a small porch. So that little area, and then bumping out into some of the parking spaces would be a what we're calling a storage area. It would be attached to the building. I would have an access from the building as well as an exterior access, but it's not for customer use. It would be strictly for storage of dry goods and frozen, frozen storage. It would allow fewer deliveries. I mean, the problem now with that site is it's a relatively small store location. And so by having this area that would not be for retail, would not be for customers, but it would allow more storage and reduce the frequency of deliveries. We have a variance that we received from the ZBA to allow for a 12-foot, 2 inches of relief from the 50-foot setback. So we have a setback line of 37 feet and 10 inches. There would be no other changes to the building or to the canopy. It would just be that addition. And in addition to the changes there, we would be providing a new area or new shielding around the mechanicals and dumpster area. There'll be no change in runoff. There's a letter in our application from our engineer, and you should also have comments from the fire marshal, or that there are no comments from the fire marshal. So we request that the commission respectfully request you approve the minor modification.
I just have a quick question. It's
Mr. Stroll.
243 square feet, but what are the dimensions of it? Like,
The dimensions of the storage area?
yes.
Yeah, it's 25 feet long, or 25 and a half feet long. So along the back of the building, 8 feet, 5 inches deep.
Okay.
So from the back door, and 8 feet, 6 inches high.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other commission members with questions? Mr. Selma?
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. Is that some kind of a permanent structure, cinder block concrete type thing, or is this more like a shipping container on the back of the building kind of thing?
It's not a shipping container. I don't know the actual interior construction, but we provided a materials palette to show the outside would be painted a sort of off-white color to be consistent with the building, but it would not look like a shipping container. It would look like part of the building, but my suspicion is it's not constructed out of cinder block. It's sort of like a walk-in freezer with an exterior wall.
That's what it looks like. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other commission members? Comments? All right, I think we have a motion for this.
I do, Mr. Chairman. 626 Maple Avenue, Cumberland Farms, revisions and special permit for a 243 square foot storage container. The Cheshire Planning and Zoning Commission find that the proposed 243 square foot storage container is shown on plans entitled Cumberland Farms Conceptual Site Plan dated 11/15/2021 are consistent with the requirements set forth for gasoline convenience stores set forth within Section 30, Schedule A, Item 42A of the Cheshire zoning regulations, which permits gas stations to have up to 1,500 square foot of retail area for the sale of goods. The commission notes that this proposal does not expand the retail floor area, which is now at and will remain at 903 square feet.
Moved by Mr. Dawson,
Second.
second by Mr. Natale. Is that? Yeah. Any discussion on this motion? Seems fine, very small little addition. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Good evening.
Number 6 and number 7, we have a motion for the Cheshire Street re-subdivision.
Chairman, 1785 Cheshire Street, Catherine Ardizia, special permit application for rear lot access. The Cheshire Planning and Zoning Commission finds the proposal to develop a rear lot access for the creation of one building lot as shown on plans entitled Re-Subdivision Plan, Catherine Ardizia, 1785 Cheshire Connecticut, revised, Cheshire Street, Cheshire, Connecticut, revised through December 13, 2021, are consistent with the requirements for rear lot access ways set forth in the Cheshire Subdivision Regulations, Cheshire Zoning Regulations, and hereby approve this application conditioned upon compliance with comments from the Fire Department dated November 23rd, 2021.
Move Mr. Dawson. Second by Mr. Bowman. Any discussion on this motion? Straightforward, yes. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Motion carries unanimous.
1785 Cheshire Street, Catherine Ardizia, special permit application for, oh no, this is for creation of lot. Sorry, I didn't change the title. When I do these, I start cutting and pasting. So it should say 1785 Cheshire Street, Catherine Ardizia, special permit application for creation of one building lot. Okay. The Cheshire Planning and Zoning Commission find the proposal create one building lot as shown on plans entitled Re-Subdivision Plan, Catherine Ardizia, 1785 Cheshire Street, Cheshire, Connecticut, revised through December 13, 2021, are consistent with the requirements for rear lot access ways set forth within the Cheshire Subdivision Regulations and the Cheshire Zoning Regulations, and hereby approve this application conditioned upon compliance with comments from the Fire Marshal dated November 23, 2021.
Anyone? Moved by Mr. Dawson, seconded by Mr. Bowman. Any discussion on this motion? No. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. All right, number 8, the Bickerton Woods. Do we have a motion for that? Everyone comfortable with that? It's another, seems like easy one. Okay, Mr. Bowman's out. Ms. Downs is in. If you want to stay right there, you can stay right there. That's fine.
I can lay you in my chair. You want it? You all right? Broadish Bickerton LLC special permit application for rear lot access in the Bickerton Woods Phase 2 subdivision. The Cheshire Planning and Zoning Commission find that the proposal to develop a rear lot access for the creation of one building lot on the southerly end of Andre Court is shown on plans entitled Site Plan Land Owned by Broadish Bickerton LLC, revised through November 29th, 2021. With the requirements for rear lot access ways set forth in Cheshire Subdivision Regulations and Cheshire Zoning Regulations, hereby approve this application. I'd like to make an amendment, Mr. Chairman, and say revised through December 13th, 2021, since the applicant has consented to moving the house and shortening the driveway, which is a requirement of the subdivision regulations governing rear lot access ways. Okay?
You got that, Marilyn? Yes. Okay. Moved by Mr. Talley, seconded by Mr. Mercado. Any discussion on this motion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Motion carries unanimous.
Broadish, oh, sorry.
Right, please.
Broadish Bickerton LLC proposed revision to Bickerton Woods Subdivision Phase 2 for the creation of a single building lot. The Cheshire Planning and Zoning Commission find that the proposed revision to the Bickerton Woods Subdivision Phase 2 to establish a building lot on the southerly end of Andre Court as shown on plans entitled Site Plan Owned by Broadish Bickerton LLC, revised again through December 13th, 2021, are consistent with the requirements set forth in the Cheshire Subdivision Regulations and the Cheshire Zoning Regulations, and hereby approve this application.
Move Mr. Talley, seconded by Mr. Mercado. Any discussion on this motion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Motion carries unanimous. Thank you. Moving on. Number 9, a motion for the accessory apartment opt-out.
Resolution to opt out of Connecticut General Statute, Section 8-2, as authorized under Public Act 21-29. The Cheshire Planning and Zoning Commission, having previously initiated the opt-out process and having conducted a public hearing thereon in accordance with General Statute, Section 8-7D, has considered the provisions for accessory apartments set forth within Connecticut General Statute, Section 8-2, as revised under Public Act 21-29, and guidance provided by the town attorney in a memorandum dated July 9th, 2021, and hereby affirmatively elects to opt out of these provisions as authorized by this public act. The reason for the commission's decision is that it will be reviewing the current regulations for accessory apartments regulated under Section 30, Schedule A, Item 5 of the Cheshire zoning regulations in order to make changes which it deems necessary or appropriate. The commission also requests that the town council ratify by a 2/3 majority vote the decision of the commission opting out of the provisions of the amended Connecticut General Statute Section 8-2 as provided for within Public Act 21-29.
Move Mr. Picado, seconded by Mr. Natale. Discussion on this motion. Anyone? No?
Well, if you want to
It
make
gives
any
us time.
amendments to your regulations, Woody, the town attorney advises you must opt out of the state's mandate before you do that. And that's really the genesis of this.
We're not
So-
saying no to it. We just want time to work
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
making it suit our needs in Cheshire. So, anyone else? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Motion carries unanimously. Our new business, re-subdivision application, Miller Napolitano Wolf.
Mr. Chairman, I would recommend, the next meeting is going to be very busy for you and my successor.
Uh-huh.
I would recommend you not schedule any new public hearings for that night.
Okay.
And so you have,
Should we schedule tonight? Should we schedule?
well, I would schedule them for the 24th.
24th?
You got, or what's the second meeting in January? Yeah, the 24th.
This is the
So-
24th, okay.
Yeah, January 24th. So, and that's items 1 and 2.
1 and 2, both the 24th?
Both subdivisions, yeah. And at least
Okay.
one of them is before the Wetlands Commission now anyway. The other one is item 1, I would suggest, that's an easy one. Pardon me, let me back up. Item 1 is an easy one. That's the north end. They need to make some amendments to the boundary lines up there that are more technical. And I would recommend you do that one on the 10th. But the second one, I would recommend on the 24th.
Okay, boundary lines?
Yeah, remember there's a subdivision up there. There's
Yeah.
7 lots up there, and they're
Yeah.
going to shift some boundary lines. They're working on deals with development entities, and there's some things that they need to change on the original subdivision that requires review by this commission. Okay?
Significant changes?
No.
Okay.
So, but remember there's open space in there. They need to make some modifications. I'll let them make their case. I won't be here, but it's mostly technical in terms of the commission having some authority on it. It's
Yeah.
not a significant thing, but they need to make some changes and they need to really get that moving. So I would recommend you do that one on the 10th.
Okay. So that's on the 10th.
Second one's on the 24th.
Okay, where's that? And we'll deal with it then on the 24th.
Yeah.
And then we're the 10th for the other 3.
Yeah.
All right, my favorite part, let's go back to election of officers. Do I hear a motion for the chairman of the Planning and Zoning Commission?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
let's start with the chairperson of the commission, followed by the vice chairperson.
I did start with the chairman. Did I say that?
No, Woody is asking, and I'm just saying.
Oh, no, I'm asking for nominations for the chairman of the Planning and Zoning Commission.
I'll nominate E.J. Kurtz.
Okay,
Who's seconded that?
it was nominated by Mr. Strollo, seconded by Mr. Natale. Any other nominations? Any other nominations? Any other nominations?
Move to close nominations.
Okay, close second. All those in favor of myself becoming the chairman of the Planning and Zoning, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Thank you all. I will now entertain a motion, any motions to have the vice chairman of the Planning and Zoning Commission. Would even nominated Sean Strollo. Do I have a second? Mr. Mercado. Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations?
Move to close nominations.
Thank you. Moved and closed. Second. All those in favor of Mr. Strollo being the vice chairman of the commission, signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Okay, motion carries. Congratulations, Mr. Strollo. Now I entertain a motion for secretary of the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Motion for Jeff Natale to be maintained secretary.
Moved by Mr. Mercado, seconded by Mr. Dawson. Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations?
Move to close nominations.
Moved and seconded. Thank you, Mr. Bowman. All those in favor of Mr. Natale as secretary of the Planning and Zoning Commission, signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Thank you, Mr. Natale. You're approved.
On the meetings next.
Everyone's got the meeting dates that are in here. Anyone have any issues with them? Just scanning them quickly. I get a motion. Do I need a motion to accept the meeting dates? Yeah? Can I get a motion to accept the meeting dates for 2022? Moved by Mr. Dawson, seconded by
Second.
Mr. Bowman. All those in favor of the meeting dates signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? All right. So we're
Yeah, do
We're
the
good with that.
aquifer.
all right. Well, that's afterwards. While we're still in this meeting, we have to say goodbye to someone who's been in this town for 17 years?
16.
16 years. I was trying to think of it today.
Yeah.
I came in a little before you, but
Yeah.
it's been wonderful to have you here and bounce everything off you. I will say, I love how you always had us prepared for every single meeting. You know, there's not much of our decisions to do up here. A lot of things you took care of downstairs, which was great. So nothing was really thrown at us, and I appreciated that. That was something that I really thank you for. I wish you very well in your retirement. It's well deserved. It was great to hear a few people tonight that knew you and gave you some admiration.
Yeah.
And I just again would like to wish you well in your retirement. I'm sure there's some people up here that might like to say something also. Mr. Dawson, the mic.
I'd like to piggyback on what EJ said. I think Bill has been upfront, very straight out. You ask a question, you get a straight answer, and he knew his way down the road. From the beginning of the road to the end of the road, well, Bill, you're well liked in the state like I can't believe. I tell him from Cheshire, oh, Bill Volker, the first
Thank
thing
you.
out of their mouth.
Thank you.
But good luck to you, Bill.
Thank you.
And thanks for leading us as far as you did. Hope you
Thank
got a lot from it. I did.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Mr. Tedesco.
Yeah, I just would like to follow up a little bit on what was said already. When Bill was hired 16 years ago, I actually was on the commission, believe it or not. Anyway, but one of my colleagues who was an attorney told me that our town was hiring a planner that the other planners used to call when they wanted advice on something. And this was a person in the know who understood these things. And I think that Bill's actions for the last 16 years have proven that he's really extremely knowledgeable and is the kind of person that other planners certainly would call. I'm going to pick up also on one thing that EJ said, talking about getting problems resolved outside of the commission and doing the routine. Routine is a strange word because things that are routine are often very important. And I've told Bill this, and I think I've said it publicly. I think the staff reports that we've gotten on almost every application, giving us the details of the application, the law, the considerations, without telling us what to do, because Bill understands that that's our job, not his. But those have certainly been appreciated by me and by others, and also the attention and concern Bill has shown for the public,
when the public has asked him questions. I think that's a very important thing. He's been the face of the planning department, and a very good face of it for that reason. So thank you, Bill. Appreciate that.
I'll just keep it simple, just say thank you.
You're very welcome. Bill, thank you very much for your 16 years of service to this town. It certainly has been a pleasure on both sides of the fence with you. Sitting on planning and zoning has been, like everyone has said here, we're always prepared, and you are there to defend us when we start to wander, go astray. And I'd like to thank you for all the advice you gave me when I was applying for things on planning and zoning. And I know your heart has always been in Cheshire, and you've always done a great job at looking out for Cheshire, and you will be sorely missed. Thank you. You're very welcome.
Mr. Ty.
Well, don't have too much to add besides what everybody else said, but Bill, I've been doing this for 7 or 8 years now, and I appreciate you always being available.
Yeah.
On the phone, in person, walking in the office.
Yep.
Offering advice, giving advice, listening when questions were asked. I know you've helped me develop and grow.
I
Again, over the
appreciate
past
that.
7 or 8 years.
That's important. That matters to me.
Yep.
That means you're paying attention, and I don't mean to lecture you guys like that, but, I try to enable you to make an informed decision as well as I can without telling you what to do, but to give you the I always try to sit and think, if I were a commissioner, what would I want to know when I read a staff report? And people come into my office sometimes, and I'll guide them as to how they should present to you or write a narrative to you. In the same way I say, what would you want your mother to hear? And I mean that. God bless my mother, but I mean that. It's like, keep it simple, keep it within reasonable understanding, not too technical, not get lost sometimes, but to keep it focused that way. So I appreciate that.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
And good luck.
Yeah. Thank
Enjoy
you.
it.
I'm gonna hope so.
Yeah, based on what Jeff said, thank you. Being young on this commission, you've been my backbone, someone I can reach out to and get question answer. A lot of times my questions are more for my knowledge than for what the applicants are up here. Like Jeff said, you've been there here and outside, a phone call away. And I love that, and thank you for that.
Enjoy that retirement. Yeah, it sounds like, I haven't been here too long, but it sounds like all the work that you do is, it makes our job easy. We don't even realize it. I don't even realize it. So thank you. And
Staff's job.
yeah.
Why make your job harder? We'll stay here longer if we do that. Right? Yeah, but there's no reason to do that. So
I get to talk now since I talk the most.
You can have the floor as long as you like, Mr. Strollo.
Yeah. So I would just like to thank Bill for the last 16 years. And I would like to thank Bill for having the guts sometimes to say things to people that need to be said, but other people are afraid to say it. And I think through the years, I've really learned a lot from you. And I know that when I sat with you at the AquaTurf one time, I felt like I was at the cool kids table because everybody came up, hey, Bill, how you doing, Bill? Nice to see you, Bill. So no, I really learned a lot, and I really will miss you. So, and I think that somebody that comes in your position is going to really need some big ass feet to fit your shoes, So
confident that my successor is going to do a good job, and I will tell you all that this is the best place I ever worked. There's no question about that. Cheshire's the best community I ever worked in for many, many reasons. And you guys are a lot of fun. And some of you will see me again in some way, sometime. You know that.
Very soon.
Yeah, well, but I'll be hanging around in some ways. But I'm going to make myself available to my successor. I'm available to anybody that wants to talk to me about anything. I want to make sure that, to the extent that we can keep the ball rolling in a positive way for everybody's benefit, that we'll do that. And I'm committed to that. So like I said, I came here from Simsbury. I worked up there, and I actually took a pay cut to come here. And it was 100% worth it for me to do that because I got to spend more time with my family. My kids were young at the time. They're now still young, but not as young. And that benefited me significantly. So this has been the best place I ever worked. It's a great community. It's a great community. You guys do amazing things here for your young people, and you guys, commissioners, always remember that. When people talk about children, make sure you remember that they are your most precious resource, and that's why you as a community exist, is to raise children and to take care of them, to make this a really good place for people to be, for families to be and congregate together, and to share all of those things that are part of that. So I'm going to rely upon you all to remember that one. Okay, it's really, really important. So you got some challenges coming. You got to do an affordable housing plan. But you've done, the good news is the statute requires that, and you got to have it done in like 6 months. Don't sweat it. The stuff we did in the plan of conservation and development on affordable housing was significantly good. And we did amend the Cheshire zoning regulations, which is one of the things that you talked about in the POCD. We've already approved one affordable housing project. You got another one coming in. You're going to see that public hearing coming up soon. You've been pretty proactive with respect to that. So don't sweat it like, oh my God, it's an affordable housing plan. You've got some stuff in here that you can build upon that's concrete and significant. So don't be too challenged by that. I'm not going to disappear. Like I said, if anybody ever wants to call me up, you'll always be, some of you will always be able to find me. And for those of you who can't, the other one will tell you how to get a hold of me. I'm happy to do that. But I will guarantee you that I will provide as much support for my successor and for this community as is necessary after I leave. And it's been a real pleasure to be with you all. Thank you.
I don't want to leave. I didn't want to leave you guys out. If anybody wanted to say something, you're good. Okay. The two new guys are, thank God he's leaving. No. All right. Well, as much as you think this is your last meeting, we do have one more meeting that you're going to have to sit through and attend. Hopefully it doesn't take too long. But with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn our regular meeting. Moved by, was it Bowman? Seconded by Mr. Kaderis. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All right. I'd like to open the Aquifer Protection Agency regular meeting for Monday, December 13th. Can I get a motion to accept the minutes from our regular meeting from December 14th, 2020? Moved by Mr. Talley, seconded by Mr. Kaderis, I believe it was. The minutes were there. Really nothing we did except the election of officers. So all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Motion carries unanimously, although Mr. Selmont should probably abstain because you were not here. So 801 with Mr. Selmont abstaining. Election of officers, we've always done in the past that we can, unless anybody wants anything different, if someone wants to make a motion to keep the same.
Motion to keep the same officers.
Moved by Mr. Talley, seconded by Mr. Ricardo. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Motion carries unanimously. We have meeting dates for this, although we never meet, but can I get a motion to accept the meeting dates for 2022? Move Mr. Talley, second by Mr. Ricardo. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Abstaining? Motion carries unanimously. With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion adjourned by Mr. Dawson, seconded by Mr. Strollo. Everyone, yes. Again, Bill, thank you very much.
Yeah, one other thing, real quick.
Yep.
One person I want to thank especially for my success here, who doesn't come to meetings, is Jocelyn Patrick Nelly. She's your backbone. Never forget
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
that. She's certainly mine, but she's awesome. The best administrative professional I've ever had the privilege of working with. She's really the wheel that keeps turning. So.
All right. I'm glad you're not going far. So all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye.